Well, hello again. We're going to work on right now is context, is what we're looking at. Context is basically, as Mr. Wood has explained, is the background, the things you really need to know in this chapter about the time period, what's kind of going on and everything. So let's start. You're going to take notes here where it says, take notes here. Here's a slide to help you out, which I'm going to get to, and we're going to explain the context of our time period, which is called the Foundations Era. So let's get into it. So, the Foundations Era. This is our first era of history that we are going to be studying. And this is basically everything with humans up until 600 BCE. Now you're probably thinking, what's BCE? Let's explain using this handy-dandy timeline down here. This is the year 0. Now, the calendar that we use is based on a Christian calendar. But not everyone's a Christian who uses the calendar. So we've had some name changes over the years. Around the year 0 is when Jesus, as a human being, walked on this earth. Okay? That was around the year 0. Now, we're not going to talk exactly when he died and everything. We're going to say he was around the year 0 for an estimate. Now, when we're looking at BCE, this means before Common Era. So that means everything from the year 0 to the year 2018, which is now, would be CE. That's Common Era. So CE means Common Era. BCE means before Common Era. Now, what people used to say was BC, and we still see this in a lot of books. So this period before 0 is called BC, and that basically meant before Christ. Now, if you still want to think of it that way, you can. That means basically before the lifetime of Jesus as a human being walking on this earth. And that means, you notice the numbers get bigger. It's kind of like negative numbers. The further you go back, the bigger the number gets in BC or BCE. So you can remember, before Common Era, BCE, and BC before Christ are the same thing. So if we're looking at this goes back, if it's 5000 BCE, that's a long time ago. All right? So that's what BCE means. It's almost like negative numbers on a timeline. Like these are the negatives, and these are the positives. So let's look at our context and look at the number line. We are studying everything before 600 BCE. Now, how long ago was that? It's the year 2018. So 2018 years. And then we got to go back another 600, so we add that on there. So this is 2,618 years ago and more. So what I want you to do right now is, on your worksheet, make a timeline like this one right here, and you can do this in your groups, and mark where 600 BCE would be, and then have an arrow pointing this way, because what we're going to learn about in this era is everything before BCE, which is the Foundations Era. You can work with your group. You can make sure you get that done. If you don't know how to do it, ask someone in your group, okay? Ask them first. If all of you don't know how to do it or you want to check it, Mr. Wood will walk by and we'll check it out, all right? So go ahead and get that done, and you do that right on your packet right here. Mark your timeline and mark where the Foundations is, and you should have been taking notes on what I was saying right here. Go ahead and pause the video and go ahead and do that. All right, so now that you got your timeline written down there, you have it down here and you have where 600 BCE is pointing that way. Let's look at some more context. And again, context is our background information we're going to need to know. We're going to use this on a lot of our papers too, just so you know. All right, so our context. There are two big revolutions that happened in the Foundations Era that we're going to read about. Two big revolutions. The first is the Paleolithic Revolution. So let's zoom in on that. So first is our Paleolithic Revolution. Now look at this picture right here. And we kind of talked about what Paleolithic already meant. This is the revolution where people basically started using tools. They started using stone tools for things like, you look here, you can see they're making weapons for hunting. They're using sharpening rocks to take the hides off animals so they can make tents like that. So this is an era where people are nomadic, they're moving around, they're hunters and gatherers, and that is the Paleolithic Revolution. And this radically changes life. And this revolution happens in the Foundations era, before 600 BCE. This is the first revolution. Then another revolution happens, and this is called the Neolithic era. Now, the Neolithic era, it's a little bit similar to Paleolithic, but it's different. Similar. They still have tools they use. But the tools are getting better. Okay? And here's the big thing you know about the Neolithic Revolution. They began, look at this picture, farming. The people began farming, and that means they start building permanent homes. In the Neolithic Revolution, they start living in one place, and they live there permanently. And they grow one crop or two crops, and they have what we call a surplus, or extra food for people. So, if I was, in my context, I would say, well, the Foundation era was an era that was before 600 BCE, and it's an era where there were two major revolutions, the Paleolithic, where people use tools, and the Neolithic, where we basically have people farming. Okay? This is your context, and you're going to use this for your next activity, which Mr. Wood, who is a good-looking man, will explain to you later.